Hello, Massachusetts. It's time to wake up. I know it looks like I'm going somewhere, but I'm really just, keys. Now let's go. Why do I have so many keys right now? Oh, check this out. My dad is officially way cooler than I am. It's here. I've been needing more of these. Yeah. Whoa. It's like there's a tablet in my hand right now. Finally got this guy working, so that's pretty cool. I think this thing's gonna really help out at the table with getting live hands documented. A couple things. Number one, I played a hand in the last couple of weeks that I think is worth sharing, and so I want to talk it through with you guys now. But also, I'm gonna use this on my next trip to the casino. So, because I am actually in Massachusetts right now, I'm sitting in the guest room at my parents' apartment complex. I guess it's a condo complex because they own a condo here. Because I'm at least 2 weeks away from actually playing in Maryland again, I am pretty strongly considering going to Foxwoods for just like a day trip. I won't stay overnight. And so I would drive over there. It'd be like an hour and 40 minutes or so. Play for probably between 5 and 7 hours. And then just drive on back here. And that way I can probably put out at least some hands, maybe a full vlog, while I'm actually here in Massachusetts, instead of waiting until I'm back in Maryland, play another session, blah, 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 blah. Do any of you guys play at Foxwoods? If so, let me know, what games are good there. I usually play 2-5, but I occasionally play 5-10 if it's okay or good. I almost never play 1-2 at this point, unless 2-5 seems pretty bad, so let me know what you guys think. Also, let me know if there's any tournaments worth playing. One time I played like a daily tournament there and wasn't super impressed with the structure. I was pretty unhappy about it. If you haven't checked out my kind of rant about reasons not to play live tournaments, feel free to check it out. I think all the reasons I talk about there really strongly apply to the daily tournaments in particular, so I don't think I'll do that, but if there's anything going on that you guys know about, definitely let me know. I'll probably be going within a couple days of this video coming out. So before I go into the details of the actual hand analysis, I need to tell you guys about the opponent in this hand. The player that I'm playing against is a friend of mine. He's a very good player. I have a lot of respect for his thought process and how he approaches the game. Nonverbal behavior plays a really big part in how he goes about strategizing mid-hand and about his plans pre-flop and just his total execution. On top of that, he makes a lot of unorthodox plays. I've seen him do all kinds of weird things like limping with the intention of limp re-raising in certain situations against certain players. That's pre-flop. I've also seen him make these huge overbet shoves, and I don't really know what they mean in all contexts yet, but it's going to apply to this hand. So basically, he's a strong player. I expect him to be thinking at a higher level than your average 1-2, 1-3, 2-5 player. He has respect for my game for sure, and our history throughout the session so far is important as well. This is a 2-5 no limit cash game. It's a $500 cap, but we are fairly deep. We're maybe about $750 to start the hand. And one really important component of this hand is our dynamics between each other so far. So my friend is on my direct right. We're actually playing six-handed and have been for a while. And I haven't really gotten out of line against him at all so far. He has been raising a lot, limping a lot, and I haven't been isolating him wide. I just don't think it's that profitable for me to do. I haven't been 3-betting his opens. I haven't 3-bet any of his opens. We've been playing for maybe 3 or 4 hours together so far, seeing a lot of hands an hour because we're six-handed. We've also played several pots where he's opened pre, I've flatted, and then we see a flop and I have something marginal where against a lot of players it's marginal, and against a lot of players I would just bet because I don't think I'm necessarily going to be good at showdown all the time, or because I just think it's going to work really often. But against him I didn't think it was that profitable, so I was definitely playing more straightforward against him than I normally would someone who was on my direct right. Similarly, I felt like he was kind of staying out of my way too, in the sense that, you know, there were like 2 or 3 of these hands where he open raised, I would flat in position, the flop would come, whatever, and we just literally checked down every street, and we would both show down some kind of hand that, you know, had a little bit of showdown value, but just not really that much. Like, there's a hand where he opened, I called, the flop came, queen high, we both had king high, and the board ran out clean, and it checked through all the way, and we actually had the exact same hand. There was another spot where we both had 8 high, like we both had 8-6 suited, and the board was like 9 high, and it ran out like high card, and we both checked down every street thinking we couldn't really get a lot of bluffs to be successful. In the second hand, he actually had a flush draw, and so when he checked it down, it wasn't really because he couldn't get a bluff to work, but he was playing check raise. But then on the river, he felt like he couldn't credibly lead and represent anything. So there's a lot of interesting levels happening when both players, you know, are thinking and know that the other player's thinking. And so that really is going to play in this hand. That's enough rambling. Let's get to the hand. So in this hand, my buddy opens on the button to $20, and I am in the small blind with pocket aces. So this is a pretty great situation. It's nice to get a big hand, particularly against somebody who's opening wide and will probably continue wide. But I will say that this is one of those spots where I'm a little bit annoyed that I'm out of position for the one time that I have aces and kind of need to 3-bet. I think my hand is too strong not to 3-bet for value, and but because he's so good and because I've been so straightforward against him, I think my range is going to be very defined to him. And even if maybe I would 3-bet more often in this spot than I appear to be, he has this image of me as playing straightforward, not getting out of line against him, and he's going to put me on aces a lot. He's going to put me on aces, kings, queens, jacks, maybe some worse hands like ace king, ace queen suited, and tens. But for the most part, my actual hand fits directly into the category of hands he's likely to put me on, which against a thinking player is not a great spot to be in, I think. I decide to 3-bet, and I make it $70. I think in retrospect this is too small, and even in game I kind of regretted making it that size as I threw the chips out. The problem with making it so small is that I'm giving him a pretty good price to continue when we are deep, and while the SPR isn't going to be gigantic, he's willing to do some pretty unorthodox things, and I think I'd much rather make a big bet, since I already think my range is fairly defined anyway. I'd rather give him a bad price since he already knows that, you know, I'm 3-betting a value range here. But I make it 70, and not shockingly, he calls in position. The flop comes king 10-4 two-tone against basically any other opponent at a 2-5 level, and often higher. With this kind of SPR, I'm looking to bet the flop, get called by worse hands, occasionally get it in against a draw, and, be pretty happy about the situation. Now, against him, it's a little bit trickier because I feel like if I bet aces here, I'm betting all my hands that connected with this flop and checking everything that didn't really connect with the flop. That's a problem, and I think it's a little bit transparent and kind of what he might expect me to do. So I'd rather check with pocket aces here, let him bet into me if he thinks I'm weak, and really just kind of control the size of the pot a little bit, since I never really expect to get all the money in and be in amazing shape really against his range. Now that all kind of flies out the window because after I check, he just moves all in. You heard that right. He moved all in. So this is kind of crazy. I think, again, against a lot of players, this is just a super snap call because I'm very, very close to the top of my range. Maybe I have 10s here sometimes. Maybe I have kings here sometimes when I check. But unless I decide to check my whole range on the flop, I'm usually going to be limited to pretty weak hands like queens and jacks that I probably just have to fold. And this hand, aces. So right away, my thought is I probably have to call here. Now, things get a little dicey because he's shoving so big. He's shoving more than 4 times the size of the pot. And that's a problem because I don't really have situational knowledge for this kind of a spot. This isn't something that's common at 2-5, and even if it was against this player, I would expect this to potentially mean something different than what it means against other people. So I end up thinking about it for, a little while, and I'm just not feeling great about it. I felt like it's kind of hard for him to just pure bluff here, but I also thought maybe he's got some sort of draw. Maybe he has just a king sometimes, like if he flats ace king pre, maybe he would shove it to try to get a crying call from queens or jacks. At the end of the day, I felt really, really gross about it, but I did call. And, right away he turns over top and bottom, king 4 suited. And, I'm feeling a little sick to my stomach because it's like, I just got owned, right? But I think it's a little bit more complex than that because if you look back to pre-flop and the fact that he flats this hand, he's putting in another 50, and assuming he's expecting to always have implied odds to my stack, that's, another 670 plus the like 90-ish that's already in the pot. So it gets tricky because he's only really getting like something like 15-1 implied odds on his call. And king 4 suited just isn't going to connect with the board strongly enough to get it in profitably against a range that he thinks I have, like jacks plus. And another issue is that if he shipped on this board and I actually had queens that time, I think there's like a 90% chance I would have just folded. So at this point, that means he's only stacking me when I have aces, ace king, and then losing when I have kings, 10s, and just getting me to fold when I have queens or jacks. Now, if he's planning to bluff some runouts and play differently when he doesn't smash the board, it might be defensible. But the problem is, even when his plan works perfectly and I rip it in, I just snap call with aces, he's gonna lose money on the pre-flop proposition, I think. Now, I could still have folded the flop. I could have still, had a better understanding for the fact that he hasn't been getting out of line against me. This isn't a spot he's just going to overbet jam with pure air, and there's not a lot of draws he can have that make sense to do this with, and that he may even bet smaller with those hands because he can hit turn cards or pick up additional equity and all this kind of stuff. So while I don't think that his pre-flop call is profitable, I still think that I didn't go through enough of a thought process myself on the flop decision. I ended up calling after maybe 30 or 40 seconds, and I just didn't really feel good about it, but I didn't have a solid enough reason to fold in my mind to go ahead and do it. In the moment, it really screwed with my head that I was just completely at what I perceived to be the top of my range. Now, at the end of the day, is this really the biggest mistake in the world? No. But it was definitely frustrating. It was embarrassing. It's really an embarrassing spot to lose. It just looks like I'm getting completely owned. And with that exact hand, I kind of am. Let me know what you guys think about this hand. I've gone back and forth about it in my head, and I feel like there's so many different angles to talk about with it. And I'd love to know what you guys think. Did I play this one like an idiot? Was I stupid to think for the full 30 seconds? Let me know down below.
No pictures.
Please, no paparazzi. It's so far to walk.
My it's working. I remote, so I can't open it.
That's good to know. Headed to the roof of my parents' building. Try to get the sunset. Alright, I just need to figure out how I can. Yeah, that's a problem.
Sometimes will come very regularly in the same pattern. So you might be able to point at it.
He did mention shit.
Oh